But does that actually make it harder to match individuals now? Because the things that made people match on paper, it's very tangible, right? You can say this person has a job, this person can cook, this person can breed, the end, right? But now it's like, I want the person to like hiking as much as I do. Like, does that not complicate it more and make it a little bit more difficult to find compatibility?
It does. It absolutely, I'm not going to say it's going to complicate it, but it's just going to add in more layers of where we need to make sure that people are vibing, but at the end of the day, do you really want to be in a relationship for hopefully 30, 40 years with a person that you just kind of like sit on the couch with and watch TV? They don't care about your dreams. They're not here to motivate you and push you. While it might be harder to find that person, when you do find them, the love, the joy, the fulfillment that comes from that relationship experience makes the journey worth it, in my opinion.
I can imagine that. And if they're seeking for different things now, I'm imagining like on the Western side, the modern Indian has more modern needs, both men and women, right? So, but specifically Indian singles, what are some of the things that they seek in a man or seek in a woman that is specific to like an Indian?
Yeah, I would say, okay, from a female perspective, if you're looking for a man, a lot of it is going to be still the good family concept. So ensuring that they're well educated or at least equally matched, because modern women are getting their advanced degrees and killing it in their career. So we want to make sure that there's no insecurity from an income earning potential perspective.
Okay.
I think women also are looking for a little bit of that evolutionary, right? I want that tall, strong man who's going to make me feel protected. And I think for women, a lot of it is I want somebody who understands me, because, and why I say this is, and I know this in my own life, is that we grew up in, our parents speak one language. We grew up in America. We're speaking and conversing in English. And while I can't speak in my language, right, I probably sound like a drunk 12-year-old when I'm talking in my language. I can't express complex emotion. I can't do like long form discussions in that language. So my conversations with my parents end up being much more transactional. And, there's a lot of competition in the Indian community with like, so-and-so's daughter did this, or so-and-so's son is a doctor. So we get a lot of that, that emotional kind of like stunt, I think that because we don't have the right way to express our emotions. So when we are seeking a partner, females primarily are like, I want somebody who gets me. I want somebody I can talk to and share my feelings with, because we might not necessarily have had that growing up.
That's an interesting concept, right? We're going to get to the guy side, right?
Okay.
I never actually thought about that. Like if you're an Indian individual who migrated to the West when you were young, you didn't get to have the bonding experience with your family when there's a language barrier if you grew up learning a different language, right? So what they're seeking in their partner is another home base that they can kind of like release themselves on, because their family is not the resource for that. I never actually thought about that. That's actually a good point. So go on. So you're saying with the men?
For men, a lot of it is, again, on the evolutionary side, is they want to have families and they want to have children and they want to create that culture environment. They might not necessarily participate in themselves actively, but I hear a lot of them, they want to pass that on. So I don't know if it's like this evolutionary concept of like, I need my lineage and my name to continue, but I am seeing for men, a lot of their motivating factors is, I want to start a family. What point in their life they get to that realization does vary. I'm getting to see a lot more of my male clients are in their mid to late 40s, kind of what you had mentioned about how people who are serious in the American culture end up being in their 40s. I'm seeing that happen on the male side.
But is that specific to Indians, or is that just men in general?
Oh, that's a great question. Since I primarily work with Indians, I'm going to say I see it with Indians, but there might be a larger evolutionary concept that happens with men in general that is probably skewing that way. And it's now evidencing in the Indian world because they have the autonomy of choice. It's not like their parents are making them get married at 25 anymore. So they are choosing and flexing to be like, I'm going to wait a little bit later. I still want that family, but I want it a little bit later.
So how much emphasis do Indians, whether it's Western or Eastern Indians, how much emphasis do they place on vanity and chastity?
Let's see. Family, you would think that chastity is like the number one thing. Like when growing up, I was never allowed to date. I had to like sneak out to prom or like,
sneak
fake
out
that I didn't have
prom?
one. Sorry, I take that back. I was allowed to go, but they didn't know I had
Who's this
date.
girl running down the street barefoot, holding her heels towards a limo? Oh, that's an Indian girl. She's not allowed to do jack squat.
Exactly. No, but like my parents, I didn't know I had a date, right? So like I had to stage our photos in a way that nobody knew that. And back then there was no social media, thank God. But like I could hide the pictures with my dates, so my parents didn't know, things like that. I had to sneak around a lot. Bottom line. Then the flip is like the second you turn 22, it's like, all right, you're done. You graduated college. Let's get married. And it's like, but I never got to interact with the opposite sex. I never got to flirt. I never got to understand that part of my life. So for me, I know like losing my virginity or having sex for the first time was a big deal because there was so much scandal or taboo. Like, I don't know who I could tell, or I don't know how, even within my own family, like my cousins or my friend group, like, could I share this with them? Can we talk openly about it?
Yeah.
Because it's such a high importance and value placed on chastity. And I think across cultures, not just Indian, any culture, for females, that pressure is always higher.
But
it's
even
sad,
more so in Indian cultures, though, I would imagine, right? Especially if traditionally a lot of people married young, right?
And that's probably why, right? If you look at all the different cultures, it's not just Indian. There's a lot of other religions out there that marry young for that reason, because they want to preserve that chastity. And they know that like, hey, horny teenagers is not a good combination if you want chastity. Get them married instead.
Wow. But what about vanity?
Vanity. Well, I like to say that, Indian culture is so beautiful. Like, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but our women, we dress colorfully. We've got beauty standards. Some of them might be ridiculous with the whole fairness concept. But I think for the most part, if you talk to anybody out other cultures, there's a reason why there's a fetish around Indian women and dating Indian women is because on the average, we are vanity wise, we do present differently. How about that?
Yeah, but there's got to be some scale for Indian men, right? Like, are they like looking for? Do they have any stigmas against like obesity or facial features or age? Things like that. Like, is there like something along the lines, or same thing with the women? Like, do they want the tall, brawny guy, or are they okay with a very successful, guy that's kind of lanky? What are we talking about? You know what I mean? Yeah,
I think for men, for sure, age is the big factor, and it kind of ties into the whole family concept I was mentioning earlier. They associate youth or age with fertility, maybe. And again, it might be evolutionary driven, but they do. There's like a big thing of clients who are insisting on having a 10-year age gap because they're in their late 40s. But then a woman in her late 30s doesn't necessarily want to date a guy in his late 40s. That's a huge age gap. Like, it's a generational difference there. So having to explain that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you could have been my uncle. Like, this is weird. Like, no, thanks.
You don't have an Instagram account? Ugh.
It literally like speak another language sometimes. If you imagine like a millennial with a Gen X, like that's a different language a lot of times. And then from the female standpoint, and again, I don't think this is just Indian women, but that tall, strong, I want a man who can take care of me idea is still very prevalent in my female clients.
Is that something that's easy to find in an Indian community?
Absolutely not. The joke is every woman is out there searching for a unicorn. I was lucky. My husband's 5'11". And again, for me too, I was like, I want somebody who's taller. And I actually happened to find it. But the average Asian man, and let alone South Asian man, is not going to be 6 foot tall. So it's like, are we looking primarily on aesthetics? Because looks fade, right? Sure. Maybe not height, but looks fade. Or there's a combination of personality and characteristics that can compensate for that biological need of having the tall, strong man.
So is there such thing as compromise? Like, are you telling your clients, listen, you got to give up this and this, and you'll get this, sign here. Like, does that happen?
Yes, there is compromise, but I don't like the words give up. I always like to present everything in a positive way. So when I talk about compromise,
He's great.
No, but
he's amazing. He's only got 3 toes, but listen, there's no judgment here. Okay. All right.
Actually, no, Jeff, if somebody tells me no, if I match them and they're like, no, Radha, I'm not interested, I will never try to convince them, because once you've made up your mind and that's kind of there, convincing somebody to change your mind, I don't think it's the right way to go. Sure. But instead, what I will do is, again, talk about those compromises. All right, well, let's see. What are some things you didn't like and what can we change? And maybe for the next person, because you've talked about it, because you've changed your viewpoint on it, the next one will hit differently. I'm not here to change your mind, but I'm here to change your perspective.
Got it. So you're kind of doing some coaching at the same time.
Yes. We do work with amazing coaches just because our focus is more on that matching and finding the search process. But a lot of the coaching, it's just natural, right? In my conversations with clients, what I've known, what I've seen, it's going to come out. So coaching is fundamental, I think, to matchmaking.